All right, so let's get into the next topic, the EcoStar deal. I'm totally uneducated on this, other than what I've read, obviously, in a couple articles. So why don't you kick us off, maybe set the story, tell us what happened, and what are the major implications here?
Yeah, the reason I like to talk about this story a little bit this week, which not many people wouldn't notice what happened here. So a few years ago, there was an acquisition for T-Mobile T-Mobile acquired Sprint. The FCC, which is the communication regulator in the US, is one of the unique regulators in the world that actually has certain foundations, rules of doing telecom business in my country. And one of those rules that they always insist on having fourth player in the market. So when T-Mobile Sprint merger happened, and let me just explain, because when you go to US, you will see maybe 150 mobile suppliers, but most of them are MVNOs. It's only 3 big orchestrators that can deliver everything. So the FCC awarded Dish, which was a cable TV provider in reality. Sometimes what even the synonymous of the word of cable TV is Dish. Like wouldn't even like the antenna for the receiver for cable TV and satellite TV is called a Dish, and probably it's called Dish on them. So very big, strong actually business. At that point of time, they were trying to transform into something else because cable TV is dying. It's a cash cow that is leaving the place, but they have spectrum. And that spectrum is actually very, very valuable asset. Actually, for those people who may not know what spectrum is, it's a national asset. It's what's happening around us in the air. It's just imagine the air around us is like lanes of different speeds and different waves and different rules, and they can all run in parallel in a very science fiction futuristic way. And that's where your communication is going on. And those assets are normally leased or actually sold to private sector, similar to the rights of mining for oil. So you have the right to use that spectrum to start actually transmitting communication here. And that communication can be TV station, can be radio, can be mobile. So Dish steps into the game and say, or EcoStar, let's release a new brand. And over the last 15 years, we're going to be the biggest competitor when it comes to actually telcoscape in the US. We're going to build 5G network and let's be the fourth player that the market needs. And now, a few years along the way, they actually did. This story for me is having two folds. One, I like to classify telco or ICT providers into 3. So there is the digital service orchestrators, the ones who have it all. You own the infrastructure, you own the fiber, you own the data center, you own the core, you own satellites if you need, and you have also your teams and you give your services, and you might own many brands. And there's the digital service enablers, if I can call it this way. They have most, but they have a blended model and they try to go as lean as possible and focus on digital services. So if they actually use the network of someone else, it's fine. If they use their network, it's fine. But they have a kind of a lean operating model focused on this. And that's most of the operators nowadays. And then the last ones are like the pure digital, like 3 or Version or Labara or like almost MVNO, but mostly digital, no even store. And I think Dish, again, passed on few opportunities. You come into the market, you're seeing what is going to happen. Yes, they were set to fail because the 30 megahertz of 5G at this point of time mean nothing. And now they also mean nothing because now they are slower than what needs to be done. So spectrum-wise, it's a trap. And then mindset-wise, from a TV cable, it's also a trap. You cannot run with the same executives to run a mobile operator. And then passing on building that is, I looked at their investments portfolio over the last 10 years. They built 15,000 sites, a lot of stores, and they have a lot of retailer channels. So you have good base actually, but with the same mindset of selling TV. No data centers. Operating centers are like 2 through the country, no fiber owned, and no gateways to the internet, no gateways to the international world, like international gateways. I don't want to use sophisticated terms. They almost build nothing except 15 sites and stores. That is a very strong strategic mistake. You don't know where you're going, and it ends up there. That's one angle, Dish. And I think this was a very bad move from them. Now they are being bailed out by 23 billion from AT&T, the way, whether you recall it or not. I will be looking forward to see what they will do with this money actually, because cable TV is done and infrastructure, I say they announced that they will continue providing telecom services through AT&T itself. So, but let's see what you're going to do with this money. It's a very interesting mistake. But the second lens is FCC. FCC has been always stuck on having a fourth player in the market for communication infrastructure providing. Do you think they backed off from their decision?
I'm not sure. You tell me. You're the expert in this space.